For a lot of your beginning and intermediate instruments, the bridge is a critical component. A human being should have carved this bridge specific to the instrument and set it up appropriately, or else you're going to have a lot of problems. Now, the thing is that human beings, they like to get paid for their work, right? So if you don't have just a stencil carved bridge, if you have a human being do it, well, that's going to cost more money, and that means the instrument cost is going to go up. But if you don't do it, if you just have bridges just being printed out of a factory, well, you're going to have problems over time. So in this video, we're going to go over what should be done with the bridge and what expectations you should set for the bridge. And if it's not up to the expectations, you need to send it back to the shop, all right? I don't have the time to sand bridges down because they're the wrong height. I don't have the time to sand the feet. Sometimes I have the time to adjust the bass feet. Okay, that's something that I could do depending on the strings, but I'm not gonna do it with a cello, I'm not gonna do it with a viola, I'm not gonna do it with a violin. So here are my tips on bridge setups. If your bridge is too tall, the students are gonna have a tougher time pushing down their fingers. And especially with beginners that don't have a lot of finger strength, that's gonna be an issue. If the bridge is too short, well, sometimes when they play in position, the string is gonna rattle and buzz up against the fingerboard, and you don't want that either. So you don't want too high, you don't want too low, you gotta be Goldilocks. So when you are testing out this bridge, you're gonna need to play on the instrument, and I would play like at least a 1 octave scale on a string and make sure that you can make it all the way up and down without it buzzing, and make sure it's comfortable, okay? You can definitely tell if the bridge is too high because you're looking at it towards the bottom of the fingerboard and you see these strings that are raised up really tall. Like if you're struggling with it, the students are really gonna struggle with it because they probably don't have the grip strength that you have. I've seen horror stories with bridges. I've seen bridges that were completely flat before. Yeah, that's right. I've seen bridges that didn't have the carvings for where the strings go. I've seen bridges that the treble side and the bass side were the same height, and this is really bad for our students. So when you're play testing this instrument to check for the bridge, make sure that you can play on each string comfortably, okay? Make sure that there's enough space in between each string and that you're not just hitting double stops all over the place. That's a common occurrence. And the students don't know any better. They're just like, why can't I play on the D string without hitting the A string or the G string? Yeah, it's because of the bridge. It's not them. And they're gonna think that they're a bad player, but it's just because of their bridge, and it got through quality control that way. So if it's that way, you can't make it happen, then you need to send it back to the shop. The feet on the bridge should be carved to the instrument. And the thing is, if it's not, the bridge can move around a lot, and you don't want that. You don't want the bridge to be sliding around. The bridge will eventually warp. It's going to get out of position. It's going to maybe cut at an angle. You don't want that. So usually what the makers do is they take like a wax crayon or something and they just color on the feet, they install it, they play on it for a while, and they take it off and they see where the wax is worn off. If the wax is worn off in spots, that means it's making contact with the instrument. If there's still wax left, it might not be. So they sand those areas, okay? Do you have time to do that? I don't. That's the shop's responsibility, not the teacher's responsibility. So if that's, I'm not saying you go through and test it, but, might want to fit, check the bridge fitting and kind of, push it a little bit and see how well it holds its shape, or if you can see gaps in between the feet of the bridge and the instrument, then it's not set up right and you need to send it back to the shop. Okay, along the same lines, check out the bridge, look at it in profile. Is the bridge warped? Okay, is it leaning one direction or then another? Typically it tends to kind of lean towards the fingerboard. If that's happening, the bridge is warped, there's some junk that you can do last minute, you can soak it in water and microwave it, whatever, but that's not a permanent solution, okay? It needs to have a new bridge installed, which means you need to take it back to the shop and they need to do a better job on it. If you've got a shop that just can't seem to figure out how to install a bridge correctly, well, you probably can't do business with them anymore because they don't seem to know what they're doing. So you probably need to cut ties with that shop, unfortunately, until they can get their acts together. And, I understand it's a hard knock life, but hey, you're there to advocate for the students, not for the shop. So don't accept excuses, make it happen. I don't know this for sure because I'm not in the music retail business and I don't intend to go into the music retail business. That doesn't seem to be exciting to me. I like teaching much more. But in any case, I would imagine that most of the cost of the instrument goes into its setup, and I would imagine that most of the setup cost goes into the bridge. And so if you're gonna cut a corner, the bridge is usually the corner you're gonna cut. No pun intended here, but you gotta have a good quality bridge, and quality bridges are a good indicator of the quality of the company that you're dealing with. Again, make sure that you're playing on the instrument, all right? Don't just pluck test it. If you pluck test it, that doesn't necessarily indicate the quality of the bridge. Play on it, play a scale, play in the upper positions, see what's going on with it. Is it too high, too low, or just right? We want Goldilocks bridges, all right? Just right. We wanna be Baby Bear. All right, in the next video, we're gonna go over the tuning system of the instrument as far as quality control goes. All right, can the instrument hold a pitch and keep its pitch, and how do you determine whether or not that can happen? That's gonna save you tons of time in the classroom, not having to fight with these instruments. You don't wanna fight with these instruments. It wastes your class time, and other students whose parents actually got them reasonable instruments that meet your expectations are now missing out on learning opportunities because of the cheapskates. So don't allow that into the program. Make sure the instruments are in tune. We'll see you in the next video.